at least you tried. You tried to ring him.
And
That's a
3,
plus.
2, 1. Welcome to the Matty Johns Podcast today, joined by Paul Kent and Brett Finch again. How you going, boys?
Matthew.
Matt.
Hey, last week I still got the Sam Burgess interview just sitting here.
Sammy was good, wasn't he?
Mate, impressive, isn't he? Impressive guy. He really is. And last week we spoke about, to finish with, we spoke about the Danny Boyle film coming out yesterday, which I went and saw Friday. Friday. But I was sitting in the cinema by myself, which is quite sad. And people that don't know, it's basically a film on the resetting of the world where everyone except a struggling musician forgets the songs of the Beatles, including the Beatles. The Beatles never existed. And it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I'll give it about a 7 out of 10. Goes without saying, the soundtrack's great.
Right.
It's Beatles songs, of course. Which reminded me of a story. I asked Sam had he met Paul McCartney or Ringo or anyone, and he said no, he met Ed Sheeran.
Yep.
But Phil Bailey, our man Phil Bailey, he met Paul McCartney.
Oh, he's the best, Bales. He can meet anyone.
He meets anyone. He was telling me once on a different note, he was walking down the street when he lived in New York City and run into Billy Joel. He said there was a drunk guy walking down the street singing. It was Billy Joel. He thought, geez, this bloke can sing. But it was in New York City, and his wife was hosting this event. It was an NFL type party, a playoff party. You know, they do big things there.
Yep.
Bale said he was standing there in this party and walking through the crowd, several thousand people there, walking through the crowd, was this little old guy that looked like Angela Lansbury. And it's Paul McCartney. And he said, when you see someone, he goes, hey, Paul. And Paul went, hey, you. And he goes,
Hey, Val.
Hey, could I get a photo?
You should have said, hey, dude.
Hey, dude. He said, can I get a photo? And Paul said, you're going to have to be real quick. You'd imagine.
Yeah.
So he said, yep. So he got a bloke, and the bloke was fidgeting around, and Paul just went. And suddenly the crowd started
Swirling,
milling, and Paul went, not quick enough.
Yeah.
He kept moving. I'd never met Paul or Ringo, but I met, closest I got was Oasis, Liam and Noel Gallagher a couple of times.
They're from Manchester, though.
They're Manx, yeah. First time I met Liam, I went over, it was mid-2000s. I went over there was a music festival in Perth called Rocket Festival. The lineup was Kaiser Chiefs, Wolf Mother, Oasis, and Foo Fighters. Pretty good. So I went over there. And the day before, I walked into a bar near my hotel, and standing at the bar was Liam Gallagher and Zach Starkey, Ringo Starr's young bloke, who was drumming in those days in Oasis. And I went, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go. So I'm standing there, and I thought, I've got to do it. And your gut starts to churn. You go, oh, mate, this could end bad. He might headbutt me or something,
You're never going to get another opportunity in your life.
So I went up and I said, look, excuse me, fellas, I'm not going to drive you mad. I said, Liam, I'm a big fan. I said, would you mind if I get a photo? And he goes, what's your name, brother? And I said, Matthew. He goes, I'll tell you something you might not know. That's the name of one of the apostles. And I went, okay, no worries. I said, we got a photo. And he said, mate, do you want to stay for a drink? And I said, no, I won't. I said, I'm not going to bug. I thought, that's it. I've got away. I can take that away for the rest of my life. So I walk down. I sit down with Trish. And I'm like, mate, if I'm an Alsatian, the tail's just wagging, And I'm sitting there. Next minute, he comes up and goes, anyone sitting here? So we're sitting outside, and he sits down and has a smoke. And I'm thinking, fuck, what am I going to fucking talk about? Some awkward silence. And suddenly I just went, so Liam, are you enjoying Australia? He goes, weird country, right? He goes, that cricketer, Shane Warne, sent me a cricket bat autographed. I fucking hate cricket. Bunch of fucking wankers standing around in the sun. The other two times I got an opportunity through Triple M. I had to interview Noel Gallagher at the Enmore Theatre before he had a gig. And Noel was running about an hour and a half late. So me and the producer, we went down to one of the pubs there, and I had about 8 or 9 schooners, turned up there. And about 3 questions in, he went, are you drunk? And I went, yeah. And it didn't go well. Didn't go well. He's a little more prickly. He
really?
didn't appreciate it. So then 2 weeks later, I had to interview him at the Horton Pavilion for another gig. And this time I took my secret weapon. Leading in, I thought, I'll take some security with me. So I rang James Graham. I said, James, you like Oasis? I love Oasis. Would you like to meet and interview Noel Gallagher? He said, I'd love to. I said, righto, meet me at this pub. Meet me at the Bat and Ball. We'll have a few beers. We'll go and interview him. And I was talking to James beforehand, and I said, I said, Liam's got the reputation of being a bit prickly, but Noel's the one I think is a little bit prickly. I said, if he's a little cool when he walks in, don't worry. And James was going, oh, Jesus Christ, and he was sweating up a storm, James. So we walk in. And as we walked in, it was on a Saturday, and it had been the Good Friday game before, which always James and Sam rip into. And we walked straight into the interview, and Noel went, James Graham went, good game yesterday, mate. So, which was nice.
Yeah, it's good.
They're still not getting on, the brothers.
Brothers don't, do they?
Exactly.
Brothers don't. We'll all have a reunion one day. Before we talk about State of Origin, Judiciary last night, Kenty, you'll take it apart on 360. But firstly, George Burgess, 9 weeks. Things you do in the heat of battle, which you regret. I think I think George probably last night, although he's been hit with a big stick, I think it would have been a sigh of relief that his season's not completely over. Yeah,
without a doubt. You still look back, and that's the correct decision. There needed to be a lengthy suspension made. It was, George would have to admit himself it was the wrong thing he did. Such a dangerous act.
Could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
The suspension could have been.
Yeah. Or just the injury could have been a lot worse. What happened to Robbie Farah could have been a lot worse. Again, you look back on what happened to Maguire, you just shake your head how Maguire got
unbelievable
fined, but at least we got it right this time. And again, the positive for George is, South you would think are going to be there at the end of the year, and you'll have a chance to play semis.
Yeah, well, that's the positive. But the fact is, he should have been rubbed out.
Yeah.
I think I suspected the panel actually worked backwards from the season and thought, okay, let's put him out.
12 weeks. Yeah.
12 weeks, 25% discount. That gives you 9. Yeah. That gets him through to the last round. He's suspended, then he's got to play the semis. I think it should have just been season. And there should be a mark in the sand that you're getting 12 weeks off, gone. Let's remember, not only is Robbie Farah, unlike the old days where it was a lot of two-man tackles, these sorts of things, and you had a chance to defend yourself. Robbie Farah, in this modern style, had both arms wrapped by Damien Cook. They were pinned to him, and he had a 125-kilo man putting his weight through his arm, and the arm was connected to the fingers going into Robbie's eye socket. It's not pretty.
No.
Like the game, I don't know why.
If you can defend yourself, you don't eye gouge.
But there's just there's a softening of penalties these days that I just don't agree with anymore. I just think
you said it once before. So you said it on 360. You said the era of the thugs. We acknowledge that. We talk about the game being cleaned up, but the suspension's nowhere.
Well, Matty, how often do you Penny Terrapau breaks Jordan Rapiter's nose with a swinging arm?
And mate, it comes from here.
It comes from behind
he had
him
the whole way. It was a good old-fashioned swinging.
It was a barroom brawl right hand.
Yeah.
But
straight
across the nose, breaks the nose. Yep. Rapiter has to go off. Worse is Chitty, the video referee, watches it. Everybody's watched it. He was the video referee with Robbie Farah and George Burgess, and he just lets him stay on. He dead set needs a rocket, that bloke.
Tarek Sims got 3 weeks, and they got that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was talk.
Well, he got a week in the end.
Yeah.
He got it downgraded, but... Yeah. Look, in hindsight, if Tarek had pleaded guilty early, but then gone in and fought for a downgrade, he would have played in Origin.
Yeah.
So the strategy was wrong.
So would he just try and fight?
He just pleaded not guilty.
Regardless if you think it was late, if it was touch and go, the ball play. But the bottom line is, he's got him on the chin. He's got him.
Morgan got knocked out.
He's got knocked out. That's right.
Honest.
If you look at the NFL, like. Kenty and me and Finch were talking about this before. They unashamedly protect their playmakers, their quarterbacks. And there's been a bit of criticism from old quarterbacks about Brady saying he wouldn't have survived this long back in the old days. But that's part of the reason. Yeah. In the NFL, they've gone too far the other way. You can't basically touch the quarterback. Even when he's got the ball in his hands and you jam him, you can get done for unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
They protect their playmakers to the nth degree.
It was from 10 years ago. One of my sporting heroes, Brett Favre, he was playing for the Minnesota Vikings. He's a quarterback. Mate, they were playing the New Orleans Saints, and that club put a bounty on his head for the defenders to knock him out of the game. We're talking 50,000 US to take out an opposition player. That's how far it's come there. Where once they release the ball. But they're not allowed to be touched.
On that bounty, the coach of the New Orleans Saints got suspended for 12 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
For that.
Yeah,
for putting that bounty out. But this is the thing. This is where our game's missing what the NFL have got. The NFL realise quarterbacks are the stars of the game.
And the lifeblood of the game.
They're the lifeblood of the game. They're the people that people turn up to watch, okay?
Yep.
So why are we not doing more to illustrate or to highlight the great players in our game? The people go for playmakers and ball runners primarily.
And Kenty, that's not to say that you treat them like fine china. If they carry the ball directly into the line and that's all good. But this business of rushing from the inside and hitting them blind in their blind spot.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it for 2 years, but rubbing it out of the game.
I know as a playmaker, that's where you earn your respect from your teammates too, taking it to the line and getting whacked. And your back rower, going to the line and knowing you can pass it him, but it's not on for him, so you take the lick.
Yeah.
And then the back rower looks at you and go, well, I like him. I'm going to come twice as hard. I'm going to run twice as hard for him next time because he took the hit. So I know it's half. That's where you earn your respect from your teammates. Going deep into the line. You're right. It's the one where it's the inside pressure from the forwards.
It's the blind hit.
Yeah, because the quicker they can get to you as a ball player, the earlier you have to play, the more it helps your edge handle the threat on the outside. But like you said, when they pass and it's that
one
hit from the inside.
In the sort of late 90s and the back end of my career, I never wore a mouth guard. I used to struggle to breathe with a mouth guard, which is stupid. But and I was playing one day and I was running with the ball and gave it away. And about a second and a half later, a guy hit me right in the middle of the back. And like you do, you not only whiplash, but you bite down. I bit half my tongue off. How do you get, and that's like stupid, but that shows you and like it. A hit in the back, even if you hit the back, that can knock you out and cause severe neck damage.
And they're the ones that I'd rather run at a big front row and him belt me because at least you can sort of try and position yourself or brace for it. They're the ones that hurt the most after you've released the ball because you
memorable Judiciary nights. Kent,
Yes.
There's been some ones over the years.
Yes.
Some that come to mind?
Some that come to mind. A real long one. I actually remember nights, Matt, where we'd actually miss deadline some nights. The one that did miss deadline was the night that Hopper went up with the poking, the finger poking, and on the same night, people forget this, same night Kevin McGuinness went up on the drugs charges.
Right.
It was a monster night that night. The
was that old Phillip Street there? No,
that was the NRL. But I'll tell you, one of my favourite Judiciary stories is the shortest Judiciary experience I've ever seen was when Martin Masala, they first brought in the careless, reckless and dangerous high tacklers. Remember they started to grade them so at least people had an understanding what they were getting. So this is in the old days when it was unsophisticated. And Martin Masala got done for a high tackle on Andrew G back in '94. So I go down. This is in the old Phillip Street headquarters. Go down there to the Judiciary, and anyway, Keith Barnes. Now they've all got lawyers, but Keith Barnes was the club secretary, and he got up to represent.
They would represent, yes.
Right.
Yep.
So he gets up and he's got this new charge. He's been hit with a careless high tackle. So he gets up and they always begin with basically an opening presentation, at which point you say how good the guy is. Yeah, Martin Masala, great guy. This is just not in his game. He doesn't do these sorts of things. He certainly wouldn't ever think of doing a deliberate high tackle or a reckless high tackle. He might have got a little bit careless this time, but Alan Sullivan said, "Excuse me, did you say he got a little bit careless?" And he said, "Well, he might have got a little bit careless, but he said, he's only here on a careless charge. Guilty." It didn't even... Oh, Marty Masala. He's looking around like,
What happened?
What's this happened? Am I done? 4 weeks.
I went up 3 times at the old days at Phillip Street. Once I was charged, so I did a head-high tackle on Scotty Petherbridge and got a couple of weeks. The other two, well, one of the ones that come to mind, because the old Phillip Street was New South Wales Leagues Club.
Yeah.
And so what had happened?
There's always a few schooners downstairs.
It was. So what had happened on this occasion? These were the days when I could like if it was Newcastle versus Canberra, right, middle 90s, and the Canberra cited one of our forwards. So the Knights said, well, if you're going to cite one of our forwards, we'll cite Brett Mullins for his shot on Matty, which was it hit me a little bit high, but there wasn't a lot in it anyway. But it was a high shot. Nonetheless, so I've gone no, and if you're going to cite, I've got to go down as well.
Yeah.
So we turn up, and I've gone all the way down to Phillip Street in New South Wales Leagues Club. I've come upstairs, and as I've come upstairs, this head comes around from a pokey. He's having a tap. It's Mullows. He goes, "Matty, how you going, mate?" "Mullows, how you doing?" He goes, come here. So I go there and I get a beer and I get $20 and I put it into the pokey next door, and we're sitting there and Mullows is smoking, having a beer. He goes, "How are we going to do this?" And I said, "Oh, mate, what I'll say, I'll just say it sort of, because back in those days, with these days, even if any contact with the head, but back in those days, if it glanced off somewhere else to come up, then it was okay. So I said, look, what I'll say, Mellows, is it clipped the shoulder and he hit me on the head on the way through, and he's like, yeah. So we're chatting about it, and he was like, well, what about if they say this? And I said, well, I'll say that. And so we work out the whole thing. We go in there for the judiciary hearing, and we get up there, and they go, righto, can you explain to us, Mr. Johns, what had happened? And I said, look, I've sort of come here a little bit against my will. Look, sir, what had happened was I specifically remember Brett's arm hitting me in the shoulder, glancing up and hitting me in the head. And he goes, right, okay, can I ask you one more question, Mr. Johns? As I came through this hearing, can you explain the circumstances where I walk in and I see you and Brett drinking together and playing poker machines next to one another? And Mullows leans across and goes, oh, you're in trouble now, mate. The next 15 minutes, I'm trying to explain myself. And he said, are you trying to get a fellow professional off? Absolutely not, sir. Cut a long story short, he got off. What about yourself?
In 2004, we were minor premiers, so it's first eighth, first weekend of the semis. We played Canberra. And I did a spear tackle. I got cited for a spear tackle.
This is the greatest. This is the greatest judiciary performance ever. I was there the night.
So, I do a spear tackle which carried.
You are a thug.
Yeah. So we win the game quite comfortably. So we have the next week off. We're straight into the grand final qualifier. So, but I'm facing 2 weeks. So if I get done, I'm gone for the 2 weeks. My season's over. If I challenge the grading, it brings it down, and I can. Good behaviour brings it under to 80 points, so I'm free to play everything.
Good behaviour on the field?
Yeah, yes, I'm behaving on the field. I ate plenty off the field. Anyway, so we were looking at it, and we were in a bit of trouble. What are we going to do? Next minute, out of the blue, Clint Shavosky puts his hand up. I'll come and say it was.
I'll come and help you out.
I'll come and say it was all right.
An old teammate.
Yeah, and
coincidentally shared the same manager.
Mate, that was just coincidental.
And it was allegedly Chock went and enjoyed a nice holiday. Courtesy of the Roosters, but allegedly. But anyway, Chock's come in and said I was never in danger. He said he was never in danger, but if you look at the tackle, he's going this way, straight to the ground. He said, I never felt in danger. They paused and said, what about there where you're going head first, straight into the ground? He goes, no, I didn't feel it. Anyway, I ended up getting off and played, and sure enough, being at the Chooks, then there was always the outburst that the Chooks are getting their own way.
Sikorsky actually testified that night that once he felt Finchy have him and get him in the tackle, his next job was to dive at the ground
back
for a quick play.
So it was his fault. He should have been suspended.
He did it deliberately, so that way he could get a quick play. Well, that explained why he had his head facing the crowd.
Dirty play up Clint Sikorsky.
I think they were a bit bewildered, and then they walked out. Me, Chock, Chimes all walked out together on my manager. And
wasn't there a mob after?
Went up and had a feed, and I shouted him dinner and a few beers.
Clinton Sikorsky, remember the one of the first podcasts we spoke about where Joey went up and started putting those spiral bombs up to Clint Sikorsky, and he had a shocking night. Clint Sikorsky texted me and said, my son has just come and said, they're talking about you on the Matty Johns podcast. He was a good player, Clint Sikorsky.
One of the great ones of the judiciary was the night MG. He necked about 4 blokes in a game. And went in there, pleaded innocent, because he believes his own lies, poor old MG.
Yes, he does.
He's not the only one.
Pleaded innocent, and then they finally suspended him. And this is when he was playing for Perth over in Western Australia. So the whole judiciary hearing was by conference call, so it was on the screens. So he sat there and he's watched the screen in this little room over in Perth, and they found him guilty. So he's got up and he's gone like that.
Give the bird.
Give him the bird. They said, Mr. Guy, come back, please. You know we can sue you, don't you? He got another week.
Oh, mate. MG's the best. MG's, mate, he should be the Hollywood actor. He's the only bloke I've seen who can cry on cue. State of Origin. Boys, just something to talk about last week's podcast with Sam Burgess. He made a comment. He said, I asked him just about Origin 2, and it was interesting in getting an outsider's view on State of Origin. He said Queensland win when it's a typical Origin game. He said Queensland play what we view as Origin football best. He said New South Wales are a great football team. They won Origin 2 because it was a more traditional game of football. I wonder why I thought about it. He really has nailed it. New South Wales, when you think about it, so often allow Queensland to dictate the terms of state of origin. When we talk, I asked Denny Badiris about this last Thursday, and I framed the question wrong and didn't sort of quite get where I was coming from. But we talk about winning. When we talk about state of origin, we've sort of gone away. We talk about all the things Queensland talk about. We talk about winning all the effort areas, winning the arm wrestle, doing all the 1%ers. And in doing this, we so often forget about playing football, particularly when the game moves into the high rollers room. The 50 minutes, 60 minutes, when all of a sudden errors of judgment, mistakes can prove fatal. We sort of go into our shells and we start to play Queensland Origin football, which is that middle field slugfest where it's all about physicality. I think our best eras, now New South Wales' best results all the way through state of origin is when they've played their brand of football, which is playing using the attack, not playing what we view as traditional state of origin football.
I think, and the best players, and then when you get to those crunch minutes or the back end of halves, you look at Queensland's run over that 10-year period. Even though they dominated us in terms of series wins, there were so many games that went down to the wire.
Yeah.
So many times, I think, in one series, Thurston swept around, dummied. Someone took a dummy. He went through, passed it back on the inside. Slater scored to win the game. They were behind. Cronk kicks a field goal. I think Slater got an inside pass off Lockyer to win to score it. There's so many games they won in those crunch moments. So it's not only playing as a half or a hooker or your key playmakers, it's getting people in the position.
Yeah.
It's keeping your talk or your communication so everyone knows what they're doing. Because when the communication drops, everyone just herds close to the football, don't they? Or worries about himself instead of going, get out there. And that's the hard thing. And that's why people who dominate Origin, the true champions, that's to do that when you're so fatigued, when all the chips are in the middle.
And champion combinations, as we said, they can still play football under pressure. They're used to that. They don't necessarily need the ideal communication to get plays on. Interesting talking to Joey after game one, just had a bit of a chat to him, and he said, it's really hard. He said, the way most players are coached these days, it's so difficult to get a forward to advance the football, to pass the football. He said they get locked in away. And if you look at game one, we win the yardage game, but our priority forwards are Clemmer and Vaughan. Right? Game two, our priority forwards are Jake Travojevic and Dalfa Nukin, men who can push the football and open the football up through advancing the football, and which explains, again on 360, listen to Danny Badiris, why did you not pick David Clemmer? And he used the point, we didn't pick Clemmer because it's very important to get the balance of the team right. And for me, that's talking about not having too many just pure meter readers in the side, having blokes who can use the football.
Yeah, you even seen Tedesco pass to Addo Carr when I think Travojevic scored that try in the second half. He's just in space there, so passing the ball.
To your point, though, Matty, about styles, so New South Wales is not comfortable with a style. There's no blueprint. What's New South Wales Origin football? What is it? If you sat Phil Gould, Craig Bellamy, Ricky Stewart, Tim Sheens, all coached New South Wales, they'd probably tell you 4 different things.
Yeah.
Whereas Queensland never stray from what their football is, and that's what they're going back to in this game.
Effort and physicality. Even those great players they had, and I've spoken about this in podcasts, I always think about, when I think about those great Origin teams of Smith and Thurston, what turned the contest their way? It's Cameron Smith jumping out of dummy half, putting one of those massive big left foot kicks downfield, and Thurston leading the kick chase and trapping us in our 5 metre area. Interesting game too. Game one, New South Wales were on their way to victory, but the second half, Queensland make it about them. They turn the contest to make it about a Queensland Origin game where they up the physicality and we go whoop and we just shrink into the middle third of the football field. Whereas in game two, not only would we use the ball more in the first half, but in the second half we double down on it. We bring on Cameron Murray and Wade Graham. More men who can use the football.
The pressure on New South Wales was huge in game two. I take my hat off to Freddie and the boys to come up with that performance under that sort of pressure from us in the media and questioning the people who were in the side and the selections being made. And they blew them off the park. Now, if they win, which I think that we will win, next Wednesday night, that's 2 years in a row for Freddie. I think Freddie's building some sort of The way he's going about it, like he dropped Latrell, he's put ball. He's shown balls in his decision he's made. I know I'm not sure if Clem will come back in for Tarek, but Clem was out in game one, but he put his balls on the line again, and I tip my hat to that.
New South Wales don't have a great record. It's been noted the Phil Gould text to James Maloney in deciders. However, it is very hard. There's no doubt it's advantage New South Wales because when Queensland have been beat, when you get beat by that amount of points, there's a certain element of picking up the pieces that have to be done by the Stars and the coach of Queensland.
They've always had to recover. Often in Origin, the losing team will bounce back in the next game. It just seems to be the way it goes. But with the big losses, though, it generally is so devastating that they struggle. One of the things I do like what Queensland have done is after game 2, such was the magnitude of the loss, Kevin Walters kept the players in there for an extended period. He just wanted them to really live in that loss and not to. There was no attempt to brush it over. Look, guys, let's get out of here and get on with it. Let's just get back to the hotel. He wanted them to sit in that losing dressing room with all the people coming in after a loss who were all obviously devastated themselves. And he wanted them to just really live the experience and get understand the experience. So that way when they come around for this game now, they don't want to revisit.
Queensland, one thing they do enjoy being is written off and being the underdogs. So they do revert to their natural sort of territory and where they feel comfortable. There's no ponga in this game, but a big, and you can bet your house on it. Munster's to fullback.
Yep.
And
he's been named there now today. So
and he's the type of personality and the type of talent that could just turn everything on its head with a performance out of fullback.
Yeah, and I think in heavy conditions, which it usually is, it can work the other way. The kicking game of New South Wales, if we get that on with our kick chase, we can really blunt Cameron coming out of trouble. If we can control their go forward, it can work in our advantage, I think. Because I obviously Cameron Munster's their main attacking weapon now.
Playing fullback allows him to roam the whole field too, and pick and choose his moments more than he will at 6. He'll get gas taken out of his tank on nothing returns to the football, as you know, where you just got to return it, but he doesn't have to make defence. It's a really interesting technique. Kenty, what do you think? Who goes into 6? Will it be Norman?
Norman's been named at 6. Morgan named at centre. Mbai on the bench. Munster at fullback. But I suspect there's just a thought around that they may actually start with Mbai at centre. And bring Morgan off the bench.
An impact.
Morgan off the bench.
Morgan off the bench because he plays that what do they call that utility sort of lock or whatever they call it.
14 role. It's evolved into
where they
just get to do what you want.
Come on and be a ball player, play the middle of the edge, just pop up where you need it.
Well, he can do that better than Mbai.
Yeah.
I think that's Morgan's role. I think Morgan has more of the propensity to have a big impact on a game.
I think then you got plenty of inexperience out there, don't you? Normally, I think will handle it, the occasion, but he hasn't played. It would be his first Origin. Obviously, Moses hasn't had many minutes in the centres, and then that's a challenge for Queensland.
Jared Wallace has been dropped again from the State of Origin. There's no doubt he was dragged. Well, it might have been coincidental, but that late unnecessary hit on Maloney at a crucial point.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. It's a selfish, unnecessary, tired play where you could stop, but I'll just do this because it suits me. It's the easy thing for me to do.
Yep.
And that's some of the things New South Wales did that first game. Certain individuals, the hard thing's to turn and work back, but I'll just take the easy option for me.
That was also ego too. Fitch.
Of course it was, mate. But that's
he needed to put it in.
But you look at Thurston and Cronk and Smith and Slater and these blokes who played together in Lockyer. They check their ego at the door and go, right,
100%.
What's the best for me to do this? Well, Cameron Smith's the goal kicker. JT, if you want a goal kick, you goal kick. No drama. If I needed it, like Cooper Cronk played on the bench in the back row position, that's fine. Whatever I need to do. That's why they were successful.
Don't you see that a lot in a team where a person under the guise of, mate, I'm just doing what's best for the team. I'm just all effort. When really, when you peel all the layers back and you've been in a team, they're the selfish ones.
Yeah, exactly.
The bloke, look, he's just taking.
All about them.
He's just taking another hit up. Meanwhile, they're calling for the football and send it to a point on the field. The bloke's taking 15 yards up the short side. People go, look at him. He's all effort. Mate, he's getting in the way.
Yeah.
New South Wales had one or two of those too.
Over the years, who wins and why?
New South Wales win. I just think we win at home. Our form was tremendous. I like the balance of the team. I just think we're better matched up. I think we'll win.
They're in a better place, the Blues. I think the Blues win. I think they win. It won't be an Origin type scoreline. I reckon there'll be like 10, 12 points.
Yeah, I don't think we'll dominate like we did over in Perth.
It won't be that sort of performance, but I think Queensland, I think they've got to go out and really slow the game down. They've got to get back into that wrestle. They've got to make the ruck really messy.
And you can do that in New South Wales, in Sydney.
But I just think the blokes we've got, like, White and Travojevic in the centres, if it's an arm wrestle, those two blokes will carry the footy 20 times out of trouble. They're comfortable with that. I just think we've got a great balance in the team for whatever type of game comes our way.
The other thing is too, Matty, you talk about the Gould's text to Maloney about Queensland's record in games in New South Wales. That essentially is during the dominant Queensland period. But if you actually look before that, there was a long time there when Queensland couldn't win.
Yeah,
at ANZ.
Had a lot of trouble winning there.
Could not win. They just there was a different feel underfoot. They played the style, the ground, the dew, all that seemed to suit the New South Wales game plan. And Queensland really struggled in New South Wales for a long time until along comes Smith and Thurston and all the rest.
I think New South Wales win so long as they get out there and play football and take risks. I think the greatest risks New South Wales can do is to get out there and try to grind and not take risks.
Yeah.
Then you're playing Queensland.
Not take a risk.
Take a risk. Who gets the player of the series, gentlemen?
Tedesco.
I'll go Jake Travojevic.
Yeah. Well, he's been just as important. You look at those sort of players. Tedesco, for me, he's in the superstar status now in our game. He's amazing. He's gone back to club level and been just as effective every time he touches the ball.
What's interesting about...
He's a fantastic player, Tedesco.
What's interesting about Tedesco is the players at other clubs are all going back going, mate, what a player he is.
Yeah.
That's who he's impressing is the other guys in his team who are all just wowed by him.
Hasn't, like, Cronk and Trent Robinson have really put the icing on his cake as far as his game is concerned. Yeah. As we said before, early in his career, we used to play Tedesco ball, throwing the football. He'll just hop on his feet and do something best. But now he understands the science of how you play with playmakers.
At the Tigers, everything he did, Matty, was self-created. All his great moments, his highlights, were all self-created.
They used to play. They used to play block. They used to play block shapes to him with no thought of hitting short. They just throw it at the back to him.
Yeah.
You could just give him hand in the football now.
Such was his footwork, though.
Yeah.
But now, in the Roosters system, with Cronk sitting there and just poking him, get here, mate, be there. I want you there.
That's right.
Run this line. And he's such a student.
I think
understanding the exact science of attack.
And he's in the game no matter what. Now, if it's a tough game and they're behind by 2, he wants the ball to make a difference. He's not just a front runner when the forwards are rolling forward. He's wanting the ball. He wants it at any stage, whether it's good or bad, or they're in front or behind. He's a hell of a competitor. He's a tremendous player.
I was driving the other night, listening to Scotty Sattler and Gary Belcher's radio show, and I was, mate, it's a good show actually. They were having a bit of chat about the State of Origin. They said, who are the best players never to play State of Origin football? And when they were talking about that, what struck me is it was all New South Wales players. Queensland are very good at picking their State of Origin players. They nail it. I know that it's not as big a pool, but they recognise the players who deserve a jersey and they give it to it. Where New South Wales really hit and miss. Some of the guys over the years, like a Darren Britt.
Yeah.
Like a Darren Britt, who was a great international player, great club player, but never got the opportunity at state level. Preston Campbell. I mean, Preston was just a genius player. When you talk about someone coming off the bench in that 14 jersey, what he could have done.
Yeah.
Johnny Sutton.
Yeah.
Johnny Sutton, who's been a big body, been a great playmaker and a great player for a long time. Never been given a chance.
I look at a couple of halves I played against in the early 2000s, and they were tremendous. Like Brent Sherwin at the early days of the Bulldogs, he was sensational. He obviously won a comp in 2004, stuck behind Joey and Noddy.
There was Gowie and
Gowie. Matt Orford was another one. He was a Clive Churchill winner, Dally M winner, premiership captain.
Couple of big years.
I think, lucky for me, they were injured the couple of times they had a chance, which gave me an opportunity. But no, they were consistent for long periods of time. But
can you name any Queenslanders? Can anyone name a Queenslander who should have been given a go and never did? It's very hard. Very hard.
Not really.
They generally get it right.
Yeah.
Let's go to Clubland, fellas. New Melbourne Storm. What else is new? 6 points clear.
It's extraordinary.
Regardless of the players, they lose. The excellence, consistency, it remains. Finchy, why? You've been there. Why? What is it?
So they reward hard work. That's what the club's built on, hard work. And again, the best way you can sort of sum it up is like their goals or their trademarks for their games. Every game they play, it's all effort things. So it doesn't matter if you're the best player or the worst player. If you don't achieve the goal, it's because your effort hasn't been great enough. And they hold each other accountable. And that goes back to training. They'll tear apart a training sessions if it's not good enough. And
obviously,
can you remember a time, Finchy, when they got into you for something that wasn't there?
I remember being held accountable. Like
Like
just the way they just probably more on an edge. I turned out. Towards the end of my career, I was I'd be three in defender on the edge. If it was played out, they'd have the block shape against me. If it was played out the back to the fullback, I'd be worried because of my speed. So I'd try and jump the gun and pick it. And a few times I turned out and they hit the...
So technical error.
Yeah. But that was just, mate, our goals are we stay square. It was like when Munster turned out against Frizzell. Yeah. He hit the inside shoulder for the try. And they said, mate, that's not what we do.
Who got into you?
The players. We'd stand up. So it was at the end of you give yourself a mark. So at the end of the game, the senior players would sit in, the senior player group, and they would give you a green or a red, which was, you achieved the goals or you didn't, and the coaching staff would do the same.
Oh,
so,
wow.
But at the start, you'd stand up and say, tell me if you think you've achieved the goal or not. And if you'd stand up and they go, why do you think? And if you didn't, you stand up and go, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you do? And you'll stand there because if it's an effort thing, and you'll say, well, I didn't. You got to stand up and go, well, I wasn't good. I didn't put enough effort in.
Warren Ryan once said about achieving excellence. He said it's a week-to-week thing. It's a process. He said it's like repainting the Harbour Bridge. At times it's laborious, it's long, but the moment you get to the end, you just got to start again, and you've got to be willing to do it all the time. And that's one thing, is that there's obviously a base of education, football, training, all that they put in place, and the players accept it. And there's no whinging behind the scenes. Mate, we're training too hard. Shouldn't be doing this.
That's the interesting thing.
It's even like when they do their warm-up, the catch and pass. Like it's, hey, catch and pass, catch it off your chest, ball out in front, catch into, like all those little things people just normally roll. How many times do you see a 2-on-1 blown with forward pass or something? Everything to the T is, we're doing it right and we want to do it at the right way all the time. A
neighbour of mine was tennis champion Wally Masseur. He used to be a neighbour of mine, and we went for a hit one day. And honestly, mate, it was awful. He just pinned me basically on the back line and was just playing, and, mate, I was in a lather of sweat. We had caught up after, we had a chat, and I used to quiz Wally about it all the time. I said, why was it, we're having great success with Ash Barty and... But why was it there was a time that we were just so unbelievable in the men's game? We had so many champion upon champion upon champion. We just led the way. And he said, Matty, it's really interesting. He said, when I came through, he said, all those blokes were coached by the great Harry Hopman. And he said, I was coached by Harry Hopman. And he said, he just gave you this unbelievable long base of education. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he said, you were hitting on the back line. And I was giving you tips. He said, for the first 6 to 8 weeks with Harry Hopman, there was no racket and there was no ball. You'd stand on the baseline and he'd go forehand, and he'd just watch your footwork and your racket placement, your elbow placement, all I said, backhand, and he'd just go through with that racket. And he said, I said, wow, and he said, it gave you this great education, got all that technical stuff right. And I said, do you do that now? And he said, no, I can't. He said, I've tried to do that with some of the young guys, and they go, it's not fun.
Yeah.
I need forehand winners.
It's not fun, I want to have fun. This ain't fun.
But, mate, the Stormers, they we hear teams talk about rebuilding and premiership windows. There's none of that down there.
Yeah.
We're winning every year. And we start, no matter what happens the year before, we turn up the training and we build again. That's their great ability.
Craig Bellamy leads the way, but also their captain.
Yeah.
Amazing. Next week he plays his 400th game, club game. But really, when you look at his record, when you include test matches, origins, and his 4 All-Star games, it's game 502.
Mate,
Can you believe after 502 games, which he plays just about every single one of those games for 80 minutes, he's still the most influential player in the game?
It's amazing, his achievement. Absolutely amazing. And, mate, he trains every session. He doesn't miss training.
Yeah.
You know, he's not turning up on Sundays to play. He does not miss training. And with all his skill and the way he can control games and kick, his ability to kick the footy and whatever, it's his competitiveness and will to win. He's the type of competitor that when he takes the field, it tips the balance in your favour. And everyone else around him feels that, You're getting ready and you see number 9 getting ready, well, we're a chance today,
Kenty, where will he, if he retired tomorrow, where does he sit? Do you put him as the greatest of all time?
Oh, yeah, I do.
I do as well.
I do for the influence he has on games.
Yes.
The consistent influence he has on games. And the thing is, Matt, the one thing that's not going to be in his favour is every game's on video. So you can watch every game. We've all seen so many games. Whereas we only hear the legend of Rugby or the legend of Churchill.
Yeah.
So, and it always, those stories always grow in the telling. Whereas every time you tell a Cameron Smith story, okay, well, let's just have a look at that game. Having said that, if you start going through and pick out a few games, you're going to sit back in and go, wow. Like you look at that Origin game where he said before the game, I'm going to run the ball.
Yeah.
Hadn't run the ball for the first 2 games. Game 3 decided, I'm going to run the ball. New South Wales got prior warning and he brained them.
Yeah.
It's just his ability, and it's crucial that he's a dummy half because he gets first touch of the ball.
Yep.
He doesn't have to rely on ball off anybody else.
No.
Yeah.
So he gets first crack with the ball, first chance to do what he wants to do. If he sees what he sees in the defensive line, he's playing it. If he doesn't, he just throws it on and he gets ready for the next one.
So obviously his smarts are unbelievable, but his patience in the fact that whatever you're willing to give him, he'll take. Like he won't always go for the big play. He'll beat you by 1,000 cuts by just dinking it here and there and working it in behind you, or if he has to go around you, if he needs to move the footy, he will. His ability to sum up the situation, go, right, you're going to compress on our forward pack. You're going to compress your line. Well, I'll look to go around you. If you're going to cover our edges, I may not get you in one big play. If you can press your line, I'll beat you with a big home run. We'll go around and score. But if you're going to cover our edges, mate, I'll beat you with 1,000 cuts by dinking me way down the ground and getting a quick play the ball. And then
I saw him play one night in an Origin game. I just watched him doing it for radio, and I was sitting there just watching him. And what was interesting is on the right side of the ruck, there was Cooper Cronk, left side of the ruck, Jonathan Thurston. So as the ball's going to the middle of the field, both men who are dominant playmakers are calling for the football.
Yeah.
And I was watching it. As the ball's just hitting that middle third of the football field, Smith would go, well, look at the opposition, not listen to the call, and just fire it where it needed to go.
Yeah. The thing about him, to Finch's point, I was talking to a coach one day and I said, well, this is some years back before the legend was complete, to be honest. I said to him, why is he so good? He said, look, when you're coaching your team to play against certain players, he said, they all have their traits. You all know what they like to do. He said, and you can come up with plans to shut down what they do. He said, but Cameron's got that ability to go out and say, oh, okay, this is how you're playing me today. Okay, well, if you're going to do this to me, I'm going to do that to you now. And he said, now, sometimes if you really coach well, you can coach your team to then adjust to what he will go to, knowing that's where he'll go. But as soon as you do, he'll pick up, oh, okay, you're going to do this with me now. Yeah. I'll go to that. He said, you just can't, the defence cannot adjust as quick as he does. So he always ends up a step ahead of you. And he's just got that ability to just see, okay, I know what they're doing and this is what I'm going to do.
Yep. From an old bloke to a young bloke, Broncos having a horrible season, but this week there's a debut of a young Broncos player, a young Englishman from Manchester, who was a Manchester United, he's contracted to Manchester United as a kid. What about this for a name? 19-year-old Herbie Farnsworth. Now that's a name.
Is that fair, Dinkum?
Herbie
Farnsworth. He makes his debut.
That's
and well,
awesome.
That's a
great name.
That's a great name.
Jeez, makes Brett Finch sound pretty ranked under it. Herbie Farns. That is outstanding. And he's an Englishman. Well done, mate.
Yeah, mate. And was once contracted to Man United as a kid. There's a tradition of young players, and a link between Manchester United and Rugby League. Dennis Betts, who I played with at Wigan. Dennis, it was a child at Manchester United as a kid, was a very, very good soccer player. And, of course, Ryan Giggs, who was the Manchester United legend. He was a 5'8" for Salford coming through. His dad was a Welsh rugby player who went to rugby league by the name of Danny Wilson.
Yeah,
he played at Swinton Town and Widnes, Danny Wilson. And if you go back, right, here's a bit of something for the train spotters. Go back if you get a tape of the the Unbeatables tour. The Invincibles was 82. The Unbeatables was 86.
Yep.
Their tour of Great Britain. Well, Ashes game 2 at Old Trafford, Australia versus Great Britain. There's this little skinny ball boy, Ryan Giggs.
Oh, really?
Ball boy in that game, and he talks about it. I read an interview once. They asked him in a Man United interview, who's your heroes growing up? And he explained about his dad, and he explained the fact that he played rugby league till he was 16, and Alex Ferguson said to him, mate, you got to do one or the other, and he picked soccer, which probably made the right decision. He spoke about that, and he said, my 2 heroes growing up, he said, I was the ball boy, game 2, Ashes, and he said, I watched close proximity Wally Lewis and Mal Meninga. And he said, Mal Meninga ran past me warming up to come on the field. He said, I just couldn't take my eyes off his legs.
When I played for Wigan, we're playing the Challenge Cup final. Michael Maguire got Sir Alex Ferguson to come and speak to us. And he spoke about how the best young kid he ever seen was Ryan Wilson. And years later, he must have come out and press said, this Ryan Wilson's going to be the greatest ever. And it must have been 15 years down the track. Some bloke wanted to have a shot at Fergie. So, question, mate, whatever happened to that prediction? This Ryan Wilson, no one's ever heard of him, blah, blah. And Fergie goes, well, he changed his name. And the bloke said, to what? He said, to Giggs. He said, oh, he's not too bad.
He's okay. Kenny, we've got things to go through, but I tell you, I don't want to miss this. It's time for the feud of the week.
Oh, the feud, yeah. Look, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about Ricky Stewart.
Feuds.
They're offbeat. They're not just blokes fighting or whatever. Anyway, one's off the record, okay, because I've rang him to check that I can tell it, and hasn't got back to me, so bad luck, Rick. The first one was he's driving to the game, and they're playing South Sydney one day, and he's driving to it might have been Tigers, actually. Anyway, he's driving to the game, and he said to his wife, I'm going to get in a fight today. She said, she's horrified. What? What's happened? Who doesn't like you? And
everyone.
Impossible.
and
Everyone.
He just says, no, I'm going to... He said, I just know I'm going to get in a fight. So anyway, he gets out, and he gets straight into Craig Field from the opening whistle. What about you lad dog? What about you? Fieldsy is starting to... the temper's going up. So, and he's going, you wouldn't have a go. You haven't got the guts to have a go. Fieldsy couldn't help himself. Next scrum, he got him. He just thumped him. Little blue starts. Referee goes, come on, mate, you're gone. Fieldsy, 10 minutes. As soon as he does that, he looks at Searsy, who is, people might know, Matt Sears is Craig Field's cousin.
Yep.
What about you lay dog? Cousin's in a blue and you're standing there doing nothing. He's supposed to be family. A couple of minutes later, Searsy, 10 minutes. Gone! So that was 13 on 11.
Oh,
but the one I like the best is when he was coaching the Roosters, he got Jim Dimmick in as an assistant coach. And Dimmick came in and things were a little bit strange. And everyone was like, everything all right? Because Ricky and Dimmick didn't know each other. Dimmick had been recommended by someone else. So Ricky was head coach and he got Dimmick in. So he gets in and they sit down. Finally, Dimmick says, oh, look, he said, I remember a blue we had one day. And Ricky said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, we're walking off at half time. And he said, we'd had a bit of a sort of come together. And he said, you've yelled out, I'll bite your nose off. He said, and I turned around, and Ricky goes, mate, it wasn't me. I didn't say that. And he said, Demi goes, yeah, it was you. And he goes, Ricky said, mate, I didn't say that. And he's going, you sure? And he said, mate, I'm telling you, I didn't say that. Anyway, fast forward, they get on well. Okay, let's forget about it. It's all good. Later in the year, they're in a pub, a lot of them having a few beers, and a blue starts. So the Roosters coaching staff have jumped in to pull it apart and get everyone off the fight. Anyway, so as they're in there, they're doing it all, and Ricky's got in and he's got this bloke who doesn't know. He goes, I'll bite your nose off.
Jimmy turned.
Jimmy turns around and goes, I you.
Oh, that's good. Mate,
No.
to play against him, he used to sit. So, where the markers sit in the game, and you got the two tight spots, the two A's, and you got them two markers. He was really clever. He'd sit behind the markers and just sort of sit, not to spend gas and attack, and just sit there and start commentating the game. Oh, here he comes. Here he is. Here he is. What I tell you, he's got nothing. He's going to call the ball. But the moment you push yourself into first receiver, he'd push the A defender wide. He'd come straight at you, go at you. It was just, mate, it was just a mind. Anyway,
Mate, try being coached by him.
oh, mate.
Mate.
We're playing him one night. It was my last year at Newcastle, and I was leaving to go to Wigan. And, there was talk that I was going to go to Wigan. And we're about 2/3 of the way through the year. We were playing the Bulldogs, and Ricky at that time was at the Bulldogs playing halfback. And all the way through the game, he's doing that at Joey. You dog. You dog. Fancy not taking a pay cut to keep your brother in. You dog. What about that, mate? Give your brother a pay. And I'm sort of like, I'm agreeing with it. Going, you dog, mate. Hey, what about all the things he's done for you? You're a dog. You're a low dog. Anyway, Joey got the ball about 20 to go. Went left foot, right foot, dummy, through, put a bloke under the post. He went, enjoy Wigan.
Oh, mate.
Oh, mate.
Good old stick. Mate, he used to have us at like the 10-metre channel. Like every half, you'd have to stand on the 10-metre and he'd have every forward in the club run at you.
Right.
It'd be like 50.
What?
It'd be fit, and you had to stop them from going over the 10-metre line. So they're 20, 30 kilos heavier. And I remember Moz come at me. And like he was going to steamroll me. I was exhausted, and Moz sort of let Adrian Morley just fell down for me. And Sticky went, nah, didn't run hard enough. Start again.
Oh, no.
Mate, Sticky. I played against you, Sticky. You couldn't tackle either. You're making us tackle.
Boys, see you next week.
Beautiful.
All the best. Bye-bye.
This has been a Fox Sports production.